Hey guys, welcome to this week's tutorial on ProRPA.com. Today, we are moving a little bit away from our traditional approach to talk about one or the other topic in Blue Prism, then provide a theoretical article, and then go with, some sort of an application for it. Today, we're going to talk about a practical exercise. I think we are at that point where, we can talk about the objects we have, we can talk about the processes, how to use the objects, the existing ones, and automate the processes, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to use one of the most widely used application, and we have a pre-built VBO for it, which is MS Excel. So I have discussed about this in the blog post, so you can feel free to check that out. Please do. And for the Excel VBO, what it does is it's something that comes automatically with the Blue Prism package, and it gives you or provides you with the most of the functionalities that you would do on a daily basis in Excel, right? Reading data, writing data, getting to a particular worksheet, performing some operation there, running the VBOs and stuff. I think everything is pretty straightforward in there. Right. So now I'm going to give you a basic idea of how to use an Excel VBO and automate one or two of the processes. Right. So let's open any of the process that I have existing, because I don't want to create a new one, but you can, of course. And let's remove this. So what happens is you have this existing VBO called the MS Excel VBO. If you don't see it in your Blue Prism application, all you gotta do is you gotta go to your default directory where your Blue Prism was installed. Usually it's C drive, program files, Blue Prism limited, and something like that. And then we have the VBOs, and over there is where you find all those VBOs. Let me also show you where it is. So what you gotta do is you gotta go to your Blue Prism screen, go to File, Import, and this is the file that you're gonna import. Which when you're gonna browse, it's gonna be C drive, program files 86 is in my case Blue Prism Limited, Blue Prism Automate, then we have VBO, and here we have all the existing VBOs. VBOs are like the visual business objects, right, that you already were creating based on any specific application that you were trying to automate. We have discussed about this in the previous blog post, right? So these ones are for those applications which are widely used by people in the different enterprises, right? And usually help you with majority of the tasks. So I've used file management, which helps you to, work at the folder and the directory level. Let's say you want to get all the file names from a particular directory location, from a particular folder. Then you can do that using this particular VBO and stuff. And there are like other operations as well, which are really very nicely named using the proper naming convention, and are pretty straightforward. By looking at their inputs and outputs, you can make an educated guess that that's how it's going to be used. So I already have this installed, but if you haven't, feel free to go with the MS Excel, open it, and then go for next, and just import this. And you should be able to get the business objects and the actions related to the MS Excel, right? Did you see there was a Word VBO as well? So that's used to automate the Word application processes. Okay, so now let's say you want to open an Excel instance. So an Excel instance, let me show you. If I open Excel in here, right? I'm opening that up. This is already opening book 1, right? But now, let's try to close this. So you see, this window you must be pretty familiar with, right? This says an Excel, but no file is open right now, right? It's an Excel instance. That's how an Excel instance or any application instance looks like. That means the application, the MS Excel application is running, but there's no file on top of it. There's nothing on top of it where you can perform the operations. So that's pretty much the same sequence that we're going to follow in the Blue Prism program as well. We're first going to open an instance, or we're going to create an instance, and then we're going to open an existing workbook, an Excel workbook on top of it, right? So for those people who don't know what a workbook is, this book 2, right? That's the name of this Excel sheet, this Excel document, I would say, not the sheet. That's not the correct word. That's a workbook, and this workbook may have many worksheets. Sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and so on. So you have to understand these terminologies. These are basic Excel terminologies, right? So on an instance, just to reiterate, we have a workbook, and the workbook may have different worksheets in it. All right. So now I'm gonna let's put some name to it, and my workbook. All right. That's the name that I'm giving to this particular workbook, and Pro RPA is the worksheet's name. All right. Now I have something on my desktop, and let's go back to the Blue Prism program. Now what I want is I want to first and foremost create an instance. Do you remember that? I hope you do. So now always we use an action to call an action within a business object. If you remember, that was literally like the last blog article that we were talking about, right? This was exactly what was told, that an action stage is used in the processes to call a particular page within a business object. So now in here, the business object is going to be a pre-existing one, which is MS Excel VBO, right? That's what we did. And now I want to create an instance. So let's see, where do we have create instance, right? And we don't need that much. For the outputs, it's going to create a handle. So I've talked about the handle and everything. I'm creating a variable for it right here. Let me explain what we mean by that. So what we just did was, you understood what we did, like we created the instance, right? Now, let me also name that. So the instance would be created for an application called Excel. That's the type of the application for which an instance would be created. And the action that we're using is create instance, which is going to create it. And the output for this particular action is a handle. So what handle does is, handle is nothing but a combination of numeric numbers that identifies a particular instance, right? So let's say you have a very complex process in hand, and now you are starting 2 or 3 different instances of Excel. You are starting MS Word and other application instances as well. Now to keep a track that where your next operation, let's say copy, paste, whatever the operation may be, where it should be directed, right? Like let's probably make this example a little bit more tangible. Imagine you have workbook 1, workbook 2, Word 1, and Word 2. That means 4 different files open, the first 2 of the Excel type and the second 2 of the MS Word type. Now you want to copy some value from the first workbook. So to uniquely identify that you want to copy it from the first workbook and not from the second workbook, you need to use its handle, right? The handle will define that particular instance on which a particular application's specific file is running. Does that make sense? I hope it does, right? So handle is only just a combination of numeric characters that's going to uniquely identify. It's like a primary key for a particular application, right? So now we hit OK, and a handle would be created. I just clicked that button, that eraser sort of button, which automatically creates a data type or data of this specific type for me, a data variable, handle, right? So now I have created an Excel instance. Now what I want to do is, I want to just, let's say, open that workbook, right? So by opening the workbook, what I mean is whatever that existing workbook is that I want to work with, I want to open that. So this is gonna be Excel VBO. Let's see if we have an open workbook. There it is. And open workbook only and only needs specifically a handle and also the file name. So handle, of course, you can imagine how important it is, because that's going to tell you which instance it needs to open that particular file on. And the file name, you can imagine here as well. You need to provide the particular location for that file. Let me do that. So we had my workbook, right, which is here. So I go to properties, okay, and this is the one. So if you see, I've provided the file name's location, and now also there's gonna be the file name as well. Excuse me. All right, and now the workbook name, which is like just the file name, would be provided as an output. You can use it, you cannot use it. That's totally up to you. That's totally fine, right? If you want to use that workbook name specifically somewhere else, then it's better to have that workbook name in here, right? Because name, you can imagine, right? When you try to open, let's say I have this file, my workbook, right, opened right now in Excel. Let's say, and this is saved in desktop. But if you have this another Excel file of same name in, let's say, our documents folder, then you won't be able to open it, because, and if like you cannot open same file of same application type on with same name on two different instances, you cannot, right? It would say that this file already exists, it's already opened, it won't be able to. So you can uniquely identify that workbook name by storing it in a variable. Just click here and it will automatically create the data variable, workbook name. All right. Okay. It's also a good practice to keep, data variables on one side, so that it becomes logically, comprehensible, your overall RPA bot, right? So I have opened the workbook. Now what I want to do is, all this is happening at the back end right now. So I want to make it visible. I want to see what exactly the bot is doing. So for that, I'm gonna use this activity called show. Let me show you. Wow, show. Okay. There it is. So what it does is, show is a very simple activity. Show Excel. What it does is, it only takes input as the handle, which is like the instance, and it just makes it visible. That's it. So what you can do is, if you don't want to see it, you just want everything to happen at the back end, you don't even need the show button. You don't even need the show action. Just get over with all your operations and you're all set, right? But I do want to see it. I want to confirm whether everything is happening correctly or not. So now I am seeing that Excel file. The last thing that I want to do is, let's see, we'll decide it right there ad hoc. What operation we can perform. We can perform anything, right? Copy and paste, cut, delete, find, format a cell, get active cell value, get a worksheet name, go to cell. Okay. What do you want to do? Move blank rows, correct workbook, show size, index, split worksheet. Okay, let's have get cell value. All right. So what this is gonna do is, from a particular instance, which we know is this one, the handle, right? We want to provide a cell value, which is C2. I'm just making this up. And we want to grab that value and we want to put it in our variable, which is a value variable that I just created of text type, because it doesn't know. It's like what all is going to be there in the Excel. It could be a text, it could be alphanumeric characters, right? So it's putting that as text. So now it's going to copy that value from C2 and it's going to paste it in a variable. Now what I'm going to do is, what is this action? Okay, excuse me, I don't like it when we have to get C2. Okay, it's going to be in this value. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to provide some value to the C2, which is here. Let's say pro RPA, and then India, US, Canada. And then I'm also adding like a few more values. ABC, XYZ, KL, GHI. Just making random stuff. Let me also put in 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So what I did was I added some values to some of the cells, and what it should do is it should get me the pro RPA value in that particular data variable. I'm gonna save it. I just saved it. Now if you see, the worksheet name is pro RPA, right? I'll tell you one more thing later. Just remember this for now. I'm closing this. My last default worksheet was pro RPA, right? Just everybody please be mindful of that. And I'm getting the C2 value, and let's see what's gonna be in this C2 in this variable. So I'm gonna run this program. It's creating an instance. Okay, you will see the handle number. Handle is 1. Opening the workbook, yes, my workbook. And then this is the file that got opened, and it completed the execution as well. And if you go over there, the value is pro RPA, which means it got the correct value from the cell, the C2 cell, right? You can imagine you can run through a loop of 1 to 500 or something, and put this get cell value, and you can get each and every value for a particular column. Let's say C column itself. So from 1 to 500, you're referencing the cell value property, the input parameter, by incorporating a variable of iteration type into it from the loops, and then you're trying to get values in a single go, right? So those are like some of the use cases. But as of now, what just happened was, whichever was the default worksheet in that Excel, the data got copied from it. Now imagine I put sheet 2 here. That's the default one. I'm saving this. I'm closing this as well. And now in here, I'm running this program again. If you'll see, now the C2 value is going to be whichever was the last opened, or whichever it comes up with. Whenever the Excel file gets opened up, whichever, okay. So you see, the file actually got opened. It was in the backend. It went to the C2 as well, but there's nothing in the value because that's the sheet 2 a specific worksheet which has no values in here, right? That was the default value, which doesn't make sense to me. I want to get from a particular worksheet the values that I want to work with. So for this, I have mentioned this in the blog post. Do check that out, to use a select worksheet sort of an activity within the actions of the VBO of Excel, where you point to a particular worksheet first and then perform your operations. So that's a very, it actually took me quite some time to figure that out, because initially I was also like, oh yeah, we are good. But then somebody would choose another worksheet and would probably blow up the entire RPA program. So I had worked on so many different sort of, tips and tricks and stuff, which was getting the job done, but not to a very good extent. It was not the best way to do it. But now the select worksheet actually helps you, points to the particular worksheet, and then you can perform all the operations that you want, right? So point to a particular worksheet, get all the operations, then point to the next worksheet, do all your operations, and so on. That's the legible way that actually optimizes the process and makes it much more reliable, right? do check that out in the blog article if you haven't. It's in the description of this video. And I think that is it for this week. Thank you very much. I know it was a bit of a, well, the practical cases are always like a bit tricky and takes a lot of time, but I hope you guys like this video. Please feel free to provide your comments, share, likes, subscriptions to the blog article as well as to the YouTube channel. And feel free to leverage the materials, the resources for RPA that we have on Amazon. They're also pretty much in line with what we are talking about. It's like, you know, it blends the way my teaching method is. So if you like it, feel free to buy it as well. And let me know your comments on my Facebook page, on LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm pretty diversified in those aspects. You can also send out an email to info@prorpa.com and I'll surely reply. And that's it. Thank you very much. Happy automating. Goodbye.